Words of Sri Aurobindo from the book Letters on Yoga, from the collective works of Sri Aurobindo, volume 28, chapter 1, The Divine and its Aspects, page 11, topic Personal and Impersonal Sides of the Divine. Sri Aurobindo says there is always the personal and the impersonal side of the divine and the truth, and it is a mistake to think the impersonal alone true or important, for that leads to a void, incompleteness in part of the being, while only one side is given satisfaction. Impersonality belongs to the intellectual mind and the static self, personality to the soul and heart and dynamic being. Those who disregard the personal divine ignore something which is profound and essential. Sri Aurobindo says, in X case, there exists a conflict between his ideas of the truth and his heart. But in following the heart, in its purer impulses, one follows something that is at least as precious as the mind's loyalty to its own conceptions of what the truth may be. Sri Aurobindo says many have had communion with the personal divine through the mind and the heart, but that is not the complete or supreme realization. The usual experience of the impersonal is that it is everywhere, without form or limitation in any place or time. Sri Aurobindo says the impersonal divine has no abode and cannot have. It is all pervading. If anybody says the impersonal divine has its abode in the heart, he can be asked what he means by the impersonal divine. Sri Aurobindo says, whatever impersonal truth or light there is, you have to find it, use it, do what you can do with it. It does not trouble itself to hunt after you. It is the Buddhist idea that you must do everything for yourself. This is the only way. Sri Aurobindo says, when one follows after the impersonal self, one is moving between the two opposite principles, the silence and the purity of the impersonal inactive Atman and the activity of the ignorant Prakriti. One can pass into the self, leaving the ignorant nature or reducing it to silence, or else one can live in the peace and freedom of the self and watch the action of nature as a witness. Even one may put some sattvic control by tapasya over the action of the Prakriti, but the impersonal self has no power to change or divinize the nature, for that one has to go beyond the impersonal self and seek after the divine, who is both personal and impersonal, and beyond these two aspects. If, however, you practice living in the impersonal self and can achieve a certain spiritual impersonality, then you grow in equality, purity, peace, detachment. You get the power of living in an inner freedom, not touched by the surface of mind or the surface movement or the struggle of the mental, vital, physical nature. And this becomes a great help when you have to go beyond the impersonal and to change the troubled nature also into something divine.
Dans une immensité sans forme et sans limite, où vibrent les sens d'un monde nouveau. tongue of the inconscious, most hard and rigid and narrow and stifling, I struck upon an almighty spring that cast me up forthwith into formless, limitless vast, vibrating with the seeds of a new world.
The next subtopic, the divine and the Atman. Sri Aurobindo says, the divine is more than the Atman. It is nature also. It contains everything in itself. Sri Aurobindo says, it is the individual being that is a portion of the divine. It is the individual being that is a portion of the divine. The universal self or Atman, which is the same in all, is not a portion but an aspect of the divine. Let me repeat this for you. The divine is more than the Atman. It is nature also. It contains everything in itself. It is the individual being that is a portion of the divine. The universal self or Atman, which is the same in all, is not a portion but an aspect of the divine. The next subtopic, the divine and the supermind. Sri Aurobindo says, one can become one with the divine. One can become one with the divine on the mental plane. The supermind is necessary for manifesting the divine on earth. Sri Aurobindo says, one can become one with the divine. One can become one with the divine on the mental plane. The supermind is necessary for manifesting the divine on earth. Sri Aurobindo says the divine can be and is everywhere, masked or half manifest or beginning to be manifest in all the planes of consciousness. In the supramental, it begins to be manifest without disguise or veil in its own Swarupa. Let me repeat this. The divine can be and is everywhere, masked or half manifest or beginning to be manifest in all the planes of consciousness. In the supramental, it begins to be manifest without disguise or veil in its own Swarupa. These are the words of our Lord Sri Aurobindo.